Shalom, shalom, everyone. Thanks for clicking in and welcome to Pearls of Joy. I would like to share with you a lesson on tithing. First of all, let me give praise, glory, and honor to the Most High Yahuwah, creator of the universe. There's none like you. The title of this message on tithing is called Tithe is Fruit That Comes from Seeds of the land or of the body of human and animals. Let me give you a little overview of how I got to this place. This is something that Yahuwah gave me some years ago. And I know there's a lot of teachings out there on tithing. And I think I will be able to share this tithing from a little different perspective. When I was in church many years ago, and the teachings on tithing were being taught from the pulpit, and when I caught on to it, I started tithing. And I tithed no matter what was going on in my financial situation. If I got a dime, the church got a penny. And they would use scriptures like, bring ye the tithe into the storehouse, that there may be meat in my house. Or will a man rob God? You rob me in tithing and offerings, and you're cursed with a curse. Not so. Lies. So, as time went on, many years later, there was this question mark that just popped up in my mind about tithing. And I'm thinking to myself, why am I questioning tithing? And I started praying about it. I said, well, wait a minute, Father, what is this? I have tithed ever since I caught on to tithing. And why am I thinking like this? So I started rebuking the devil, laying hands on myself and binding up the lying spirit and everything. And after I finished doing all of that, Father said, go search it out. And of course, the first place I went was to the book of Malachi. So as I, searched those scriptures out about the, bringing the tithe and being cursed with the curse and all these things, I studied out the entire book of Malachi. And what I learned in that is that the tithe is not money. And it is, and let me make this point. Tithing is a biblical concept, command, or vow, as in the case of Abraham and Jacob, and I'll go into that a little bit more in probably a second part of this. Now, one of the questions that always come to me is, or I will say to myself, fruit is not money, and money is not fruit. So, I concluded that the instructions for tithing have been taken out of its original context by man-made religious doctrines. Religious doctrines change the meanings of words to fit into their religious systems. They change the word fruit to money. And as we all know, tithe is a tenth. Now, every living creature or everything that has life in it has a seed of itself that produces after its own kind, such as livestock, cattle, goats, chickens, and all fowls of the air. Some of those were used as acceptable sacrifices according to the ceremonial laws or the ceremony instructions. And these stocks, livestock, cattle, lambs, and animals, they contain blood and water. Blood represents life and water represents cleansing. Therefore, for this reason, they were accepted as sacrifice for sin. And they can also be used as food without the blood, of course. because the blood is the life of all flesh, and whatever we eat, we become. The saying goes that you are what you eat, and this is very true. And there's a reason why Abba told us not to eat the blood, because if we are consuming the blood of an animal, guess what? That blood flows through your bloodstream and or our bloodstream, and we start to take on the nature of an animal's instinct. When an offering is made for sin, life is required. Blood for blood. This is an exchange in place for or instead of shedding of one's blood to satisfy the death penalty for sin. Also, as we know, the wages of sin is death, and the wage have to be paid. An example, I think a good example is Cain. In Cain's offering, one of the reasons why Cain's offering was not received was because Cain offered an offering from the ground. And I always thought, okay, what kind of offering was that came from the ground? And I concluded that it must have been either vegetables or fruits, or like melons or cucumbers, that kind of thing. Because those are the things that bring health and life to the blood, which is the life of the flesh. And therefore, what Cain bought was basically not received, because he brought something that's bringing provision for his flesh. And that tells me that he was probably unrepentant, he was rebellious, and it was about self-justification, because he brought something that was not a sacrifice at all, because the sacrifice for sin is the blood, the red blood. The fruit of trees, herbs, and vegetables is of a different kind of blood, and it's for a different purpose. They contain oil, water, vitamins, minerals for life of the blood. And these serve as food. It is a gift from Yahuwah that can be given as a gift to others for feasting and to share in fellowship. The lifeblood of fruits, herbs, and vegetables bring health and healing to the flesh that flows through the blood of the flesh. The blood of an animal sacrifice is for remission of sin. And after the sin penalty is fulfilled, then we eat and we feast on the remaining tithe of the fruit and the meat. Foods that, I'm going to name some foods that produce after its own kind. And this is a different blood. These have oil and water, and it is not for sacrifice like what Cain brought. It is for provision. It is for fuel. It is for food. In Genesis 2:6, it talks about the trees. And this is the command that Yahuwah gave to Adam, saying, of every tree in the garden you may freely eat. So you see, the tithe is eaten. It is eaten by the people that bring the tithe. Because when you go back to Malachi, what was happening there is the people, they were feasting, and the people brought their tithe, and they were feasting, they were eating, and they were celebrating and worshiping Yahuwah. And during feast time, this is when you bring the agricultural tithe. And you can see this in Deuteronomy 14:23. And it says, eat it before Yahuwah in the place where he put his name. Corn, wine, oil, the first of your herds and flocks. And there's no mention of money here. It doesn't say anything about gold and silver. So I believe that this solidifies the fact that fruit is not money, and money is not fruit. And why do we do this? Why do we come before Yahuwah to worship Him and bring in the tithe? It is so that we will learn to reverence Yahuwah, our Alua, always. Trees bear fruit from the root. The root is where the seeds and nutrients start that flows to the branches through the vine and bears fruit. The vine is just like the veins in our bodies that flows through. This is provision for the flesh life. That's just like when you go to a doctor, most of the time they want to draw blood. The reason being, the health of your life is in your blood, and they know that. So this is why they want to draw blood. Vegetation is another, as I've been mentioning. Vegetation, it has the oil and the water, which is fuel, which is for your flesh, for the health of your flesh. Now, livestock that's produced through seeds of its own kind is fruit of the womb. You see, this is a different fruit, and it is acceptable to be used as sacrifice. Yahuwah did not require the sacrifice of animals. None were worthy. Reason why he sacrificed Yahuwah from the foundation of the world, making good on his word from the start, giving the gift of life for life. His word, Yahusha, is life, a different type of blood for the same purpose at a different time. Hasatan, Satan that is, require human sacrifice. His ways are always in opposition to the Most High. Hasatan thought that he was the one sacrificing Yahusha. He was deceived by the wisdom of the Most High, using the wisdom of the world to confound the wise, thinking of himself as the all-wise little God. Yahuwah allowed the sacrifice of Yahusha. His sacrifice was more than a human sacrifice, in that it was a human body that bought back life for the spiritual body, because we were spiritually dead. Yahusha played the sinner to redeem us from death to life. Yahusha was the seed given by Yahuwah. All seed comes from Yahuwah, all good seed that is. And Genesis 2 verses 4 and 5 talks about Yahuwah is the one that gives seed. Seed that is planted bears fruit. That's just like in humans, in animals, and in plants. The seeds bear fruit. Deuteronomy 14:22 talks about the agricultural tithe, which is from the increase of the seed of the field year by year. The fruit of the womb comes from seed after its own kind. You know, the seed of a human produces another human. Animals produce other animals. Fruit of the earth comes from seed, like trees, plants, herbs, and vegetation. I know I'm probably saying some of this over and over again, but I'm sure you get the point.